Now, if you've been around Leamington any time at all, you'll have probably come across the Leamington History Group. They're famed for their walking tours around town and their various historical talks. But they don't just walk the walks and talk the talks, they actually commission films as well. And the latest of that series premiered just before Christmas at the Loft Theatre. It's called Leamington at War, and it tells a story of how Leamington was impacted by the Second World War. And it's now available online as a free resource to use, and I'm very happy to have with me two people deeply involved with the creation of that film. Janet Ainley from the Leamington History Group, who commissioned the film, and Mark Ellis from Postmaster Media, who was the filmmaker. Janet, Mark, welcome to Life in Lem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely to be with you. So firstly, congratulations on the film and its terrific reception. We'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later on. So what spurred the idea to make a film about Leamington at War, Janet?
Well, we have so far made 5 films, which roughly follow a timeline from the beginning of the Spa right up to the impact of the University of Warwick on the town in the recent years. But the period of the Second World War was a gap in the timeline. And so I think we'd always had the intention to come back and make that film. But this year, with it being the 80th anniversary of VE Day and VJ Day, it seemed very appropriate to make this film this year.
How long did it actually take to make the film, from the decision to, yes, let's do it, to the final finished article?
I guess it was about a year. I think we started talking about it in January and applying for some funding. I think it's probably taken, from those initial discussions, it was about a year, yeah.
So, Mark, over to you. I mean, this was a genuinely fascinating film for me. It had some original footage from the war and some photos, maps and documents. It had interviews with experts and descendants from some of the people involved. And it even had some theatrical reconstructions of some of the things in the war and some new pictures, diagrams and animations. It was a fantastically complex, informative and rich experience, really. How on earth do you get started on a project like that?
Well, this, as Janet said, this is the 6th film that we've made. So I guess over time you develop a certain confidence that you can do it. And we're lucky in that one of the prominent members of the Leamington History Group, who's quite a prolific author, Alan Jennings, has actually written 2 books on the subject of Leamington in the Second World War. So that was really the start point and in many respects the inspiration for how we pieced together, although obviously a book and a film are 2 very different things. So I think you know with something like the Second World War that there are a few key plot points, if you like, that you're going to need to cover that are of national interest. And then there are some specific things to do with the war which not necessarily everybody, but most people would know about and would expect to be in there. So the presence of the Camouflage Directorate, the presence of the Free Czechoslovak Army, and the moving of Queen Victoria's statue by the bomb. So you need to make sure that those plot points are touched on, if you like. And then from there, it's a question of delving into further research, looking for interesting stories. But all of these films are very much interview-led, and that's my background is as a researcher and an interviewer. So identifying and then getting the insight from those interviewees is absolutely critical. And not just necessarily people from the history group. So Professor Rebecca Earle from the University of Warwick, who's an expert in the history of food. So she was a brilliant person to talk to about rationing, for example.
And in terms of some of those theatrical reconstructions that feature in the film, they must have been actually a lot of fun to make, because there's lots of period costume in there. There's lots of people speaking really in the tongue of the period. How did those come about?
Yeah, we just thought there was some of the stuff that was perhaps most interesting about day-to-day life in Leamington, going out to the Blue Cafe, the charity auction at the town hall. There wasn't really any visual collateral, if you like, that represented those things. So we would have a go at making them ourselves. And fortunately, we've the History Group and myself both have a sort of brilliant relationship with the Loft Theatre. But then also we had a whole series of volunteers from the Loft Theatre who actually participated. So, and that obviously, most obviously, is the people you see on the screen, some of the young actors from there. Supported by a cast of extras, including Janet, if you look closely enough. But also even behind the scenes, costumes, stage management, props. And we also managed to secure the services of a brilliant hair and makeup artist, Lindsay Lecoeur, who just did a fantastic job at kind of bringing the look of the 1940s to life.
Yeah, absolutely. It was almost like watching an episode of Dad's Army. It was that sort of convincing in terms of the look. And from your point of view, Mark, as a filmmaker, is there anything about the film that you look back on and go, actually, that was particularly novel, or indeed that you're particularly proud of?
Well, I think of that process of shooting those extra scenes was the real kind of novelty this time around. I think in terms of the stuff that I'm pleased about, obviously we're very pleased with the response to it. You never know what it's going to be like. You're so close to the project. Janet talked about the whole process taking about a year. From my point of view, in terms of the production, it was 6 fairly intense months. And you just get so close to the thing that it's very reassuring to actually screen it in front of an audience and people laugh in the right places. And, there's even the occasional gasp, which was great.
Yeah. By the time we actually show the final film, I always think, everybody knows all this stuff. Nobody's going to be interested because we've been so close to it and seen it all before.
And I think, the other thing that not exclusive to this particular production, but the collaborative nature of the way in which we produce these things, obviously within the History Group and with the interviewees that we talk to, but also the involvement of other local schools in providing the narrators for the films. At this time it was Trinity, and teachers at the school managed to encourage students to come forward for audition for those roles, and then it's a great, they do a fantastic job. 1 Mill Street contributed their podcast studio that allowed us to record the narration. You look at a production like this, and it's involving people, from the age of 16 through to people in their 80s, and I think that is a perfect way of illustrating how local history can be for anyone.
So, Janet, Mark already mentioned that you're very immersed in the process while you're making the film, and you don't know quite how it's going to be received until you let it loose on the public. How has it been received?
Well, I think tremendously well, and we're absolutely delighted with how enthusiastic people were. We were very grateful that the Loft Theatre hosted the launch for us, and it was sold out weeks before the event. And we know that since the film has gone on to YouTube, we've had over 1,000 views. 1,300 views. So that's really an indication of how enthusiastic people have been about it, and on the night, people were full of praise for it, and we've had lots and lots of messages of congratulations. It's very rewarding to see how much people enjoy what we've done. Yeah.
And I have to comment that we're recording this about 2 days after the film went online on YouTube, so those 1,300 views have been clocked up in the matter of a couple of days. So I tracked down a couple of people after the premiere at the Loft Theatre and got a bit of feedback from them. So let's have a listen to that.
I thought it was a very good production. It was well put together, but it's nice to see all the bits and pieces put together in a film.
Well, I learned about the Blue Room, and I think it must have been wonderful to have been all dressed in blue in a blue room and able to have a cocktail and maybe a dance or two, and I think that just would have been great fun, and I wish we had things like that today.
As being born and bred in Leamington, obviously we remember a lot of Leamington history, but a lot of that, and particularly having left school and worked at Automotive Products, I didn't realise that there were 400 people actually then working in the home guard and protecting that sort of regularly. So that was absolutely new, and that was really quite interesting. And the things that Leamington people did in terms of protecting the town.
So a lot of people, as you hear, they were delighted to have seen the film, and it left specific memories in their mind. In terms of the film now, Janet, how do you hope it's going to be used?
Well, we want to make it as widely available as possible, which is why it is available through YouTube. So we hope that individuals will want to view it, hopefully that families will want to view it, and that it would form a talking point perhaps between generations about sharing experiences and helping younger people who, thank goodness, have grown up with no experience of war to have some sense of what their grandparents, great-grandparents' experiences were. We hope that schools might want to use it. I think it would be a very good resource. And we're also going to be showing it at an event that Mark knows more about than I do.
Yeah, well, Warwick District Council's part of their Spark programme, which is their creative Leamington. They are having a local filmmakers evening Monday, February the 9th at 6:30 at the Spa Centre Cinema.
So for that event, Mark, can the public buy tickets for that?
Go to the Warwick District Council site. The tickets are available now. They're free, but you do have to book in advance.
And Janet, for schools or other community groups that might want to use the film, do they need to get permission to do that, or is it just free for them to grab and use?
Oh no, very much free for them to grab and use. I mean, obviously it is copyright, so they're not free to grab and alter it, but no, very much free to grab and use. And if people go to the Leamington History Group website to access it, they can there also access all of our other films, that they're all freely available.
So the entire catalogue of films available on the Leamington History Group website will include the link to that in the blurb, and of course will include a link direct to the YouTube location for this particular film as well. Janet, Mark, many congratulations. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Very pleasure.